Alright guys, Hatchcomic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Things are getting spicy going into the Esports World Cup. Pred going at it last night with Drazah and Neptune after some Challs go down. Pred gets the best of them first time. The second time, a rather different story. Could these guys match up at the Esports World Cup? Because it's meant to be Falcons tournament to do rather well going into the start of the season. We expected them to try and be a serious force going into the World Cup in Riyadh. Now they're in an easier group than they could have been after the drama over the last few days. Plenty to get into today. Very much on Twitter your thoughts and the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to start here. They've got a new coach, Gentlemate. Now, I don't really know what they're playing at over there. Not to say this is necessarily a bad decision, but just to say that they've done a lot in recent weeks, and I don't really know why it's necessary now, but I guess the point that I'm trying to make is aBeZy and Drazah were both coaches of that team this season. They have got rid of both of those guys effectively, although they're still under contract. I think that's what makes this situation kind of interesting to me, is that they still have two coaches, Drazah and aBeZy, under contract until after the World Cup. They're still paying them money right now, but they're deciding to bring in another coach instead, I guess, to see how it goes during the World Cup, and then maybe, well, I think the decision is made. It's just the contracts they signed with Drazah and aBeZy meant that I think they're still paying them until after the World Cup, which maybe just is what it is, but they've got another coach. You might have thought, especially with coaches being available and, you know, being forced to be on the headset nowadays as well, as we know for the tournament, which has been causing lots of controversy in recent days, I might have expected that they would have simply told aBeZy or Drazah, like, okay, yeah, you know, you're going to be out there at the events and you're going to be putting their headset on. But no, instead, they're effectively paying them to stay at home, I think, and Mayhem is going to go as well. Now, Mayhem has been part of this organisation before, when they were LAG, and has been known as a pretty competent, notable coach over the last few years, and decent player as well back in his day too. So I don't necessarily disagree with the decision. It's just interesting, I think, that their Gentlemates are putting the old gang back together. They brought VOs back in to make some decisions. They brought Mayhem back in, who was there a couple of years ago, which is just an interesting way to go, because I didn't expect that any of the history related with Los Angeles Guerrillas would be set to continue with Gentlemates. I expected they would kind of move on their own path, but it seems that after a disastrous year, they're looking back at some of the things that worked in the previous iteration of the Los Angeles Guerrillas, which rarely worked, but occasionally they did, and take an inspiration from that going forward, especially because, you know, one of their French prospects that you might have considered, I mean, they wanted HyDra at the start of the season, that never happened. Of course, they had Linz at the start of the year as well. I thought they might try and form some sort of French team for the World Cup, but that's not what they've decided to do. So Mayhem says, short-term mission for the event, I'll be doing my best to support the players, we'll give it a proper go. And he's now the head coach for the team during the World Cup. So it's all kind of strange what they've been up to. But I did just want to quickly look at his career as a coach. It doesn't stretch the entire way, but just notable to look at. I mean, he was coaching Toronto Academy, including Scrap, back in Vanguard. Then in Modern Warfare 2, he coached the LAG team, right? So that was the Arcetes, Assault, Exceed, and JoeDeceives team. And it was aBeZy and Mayhem coaches at the time. Then, of course, some of those guys, including JoeDeceives, went on to do some pretty good things. Mayhem ended up coaching FaZe Black last year, including JoeDeceives briefly when he was off the Thieves. Then he was back on the Thieves in Modern Warfare 3. And then, of course, this year in Black Ops 6, he's coached a few different iterations, including, you know, SGP with Diamond Con and Rex and, you know, some notable players. Interesting that he's got that relationship, I guess, with Diamond Con as well, because Diamond Con is now on the Gentlemates for the World Cup after they poached him from Team War. VO's was also over there with that team, and he's now reuniting with him, I think, on Gentlemates. It's all just a little bit weird to me why, if this was still Los Angeles Guerrillas in charge, then yeah, I get a lot of these decisions. They're trying to put the old gang back together that occasionally brought them success. But I thought Gentlemates would try and forge their own path. Not really what we're seeing right now. Not to say that it's necessarily a bad decision. Drazah and aBeZy are under contract still, and they've now got a new coach. And apparently there's going to be another coach for the foreseeable, pending the announcement on that. So, yeah, it's all going on over there. The other big update of yesterday was the follow-up to the drama that we saw with Team War, and a team making a change, it seems, going into the Esports World Cup, and another one. Whether that's allowed is a bit of a question, but yeah, the flank confirmed, and it was talked about yesterday, and Linz then confirmed this, that due to an unforeseen issue, as they said at the time, Linz will not play for Team War at EWC. the coach Bink is set to make his professional debut in place of the Frenchman. So Bink has been around a while as a player, now he's been doing a little bit of coaching, and I think this is the reason why this is allowed. Before we discuss the kind of reaction from Linz's side and what it's going to mean for the team and wishing everyone involved the best, what we talked about yesterday was Diamondcon was poached off this team to go to Gentlemates, and as a result, they brought in a replacement in Neum. So their team was then Assault, 2Real, Linz, and then Neum, right? That was their team of 4. But if they had to make another change, then that would basically mandate them making a 2-man change going into the World Cup, which isn't allowed. But I think that Bink, because he was their coach and therefore technically like on the roster, they can sub him in and they can kind of get away with it. So that's my understanding on why they're kind of allowed to do this within the rules, where Ravens were not and got kicked out of the tournament for trying to make too many changes. But the big question is, okay, like why? And we discussed it yesterday that Linz he seems struggling with a few things outside of the game. And as he says yesterday, I will not be going to EWC because of a personal reason and how I've been feeling recently. Feels like I forced myself and pushed to play champs, and I need to take a break so I can be back stronger next year. Disappointing situation for me. I'm sorry for the team. Good luck, brother. So, wishing Linz the best. If he's struggling with a few things outside of the game, I hope that he can, feel better in due course. It's obviously, tough to read this, and also it's, difficult timing, because I'm sure that Linz would really have wanted to play, and, well, okay, he obviously doesn't want to play, but I think the point that I'm trying to make is, like, he would probably have looked at this and felt like, I don't want to let down my team, and as probably time went on and it got closer to the date, he realised that he just didn't feel ready and able and capable to play the tournament. Which means, to be fair, I know that people would say, oh, well, Linz should have at least said this earlier so they could have found a replacement. But as we've just discussed, that wasn't even a possibility, we don't think, because of the rules. If Linz was not going to go, then the only option, I think, for them, effectively, was to bring in their coach Bink. So the timing side of it probably doesn't really matter. But, it's difficult, right? Because I think for Linz, when he first came in and we saw some of his potential last year, we were like, okay, he's not HyDra, but, like, he's a talented player with a fair bit of potential. And I thought that he might be kind of a staple of this franchise, like the Gentlemates franchise, right? Like, they brought him in, then they decided to part ways. Did that really help them? I don't necessarily think so, but it's difficult to know, where it goes from here, when Linz's next opportunity could be. So, yeah, wishing the best for him, and anyway, to feel better over this period and the off-season. Just therefore to mention, Team War with that new iteration again is in Group C. So, not going to lie, we're going to discuss the Falcons and Pred here in a second, but Group C is, like, so achievable for anyone, right? Like, I think Falcons, there are some people that believe in the conspiracy that Ravens were disqualified from the tournament because the seeding would therefore favour Falcons. And anyway, you look at that Group C and it's like, well, Boston, yeah, they came top 3 at champs, but they were inspired by a generational run of Search and Destroy and Nesloing. It's not like they were... I think Boston are pretty good. I've said that all year. I do like the team, but they definitely overperformed at champs, I think it would be fair to say. Maybe they can replicate some of that performance here again, but, I think Boston, they placed better than they would have placed if you run that tournament 100 times, let's say, on average anyway. Toronto, we know, maybe are kind of compromised, although they've been feeling optimistic with abe, but they were feeling optimistic going into champs and they still crashed out. And then you've got Falcons, who have been pretty terrible. I mean, they won 3 series all season, even after they brought in Pred. And then Team War, who are, obviously a bit of a shambles, because they've brought in Liam instead of Diamondcon, and now they've put their coach in. So, Group C is just unbelievably achievable for, like, everybody. And compared to some of the other groups, it almost looks a little bit laughable. But I don't think that's necessarily fair to say. Just like other groups, they look like they have... Every other group is like, wow, there's a serious super team. It's like the meme of the dragons, right? And you've got the ones that have the serious face and look like they're going to kill you. And then you've got the one with its tongue out. That's kind of Group C. So just before we get to some of these clips here, because things have been getting a little juicy going into the World Championship. This is all the World Cups, sorry, after the World Championship. This is our SMG pyramid going into that with the top 10 SMG players in the league right now. HyDra still holding on to that number 1 spot, but with Shotzzy and Neptune, their performance at the World Championship, they've moved up to the 2nd tier right behind HyDra. and then Envoy, Simp, and Huke on the third rung, and then JoeDeceives got knocked down alongside aBeZy, CleanX, and Real. So I think this is probably reasonably done, but it does raise questions on who's going to actually deliver at Champs, because yeah, I still think HyDra should be the king of the SMGs, but after the World Championship results, that is certainly something that you could debate. So over the last couple of days, there's been lots of Challs going down, money flying around. We've actually got some search and destroy and some respawn stuff even back in business as well. Illy was playing a $3,000 pot Chal the other day, and there was an interesting Chal that was going down last night. Now, Pred is gotta be, if you were a player playing against Pred, he's gotta be one of those annoying players to play against ever, which I think is a credit to him in some ways, because this is how you get under the skin of your opponent. And the way that he's talking into the controller mic, because the quality is terrible, just to piss off the other guys. And, you know, Pred was trash talking, right? They won, okay, so just to note, they won this first Chal, I think, and then they re-Challed, and then Pred's team lost the second Chal, which is when, of course, they were going to clap back to him a little bit. We'll get to that in a second. When Pred was trash-talking these guys, I mean, obviously Drazah was on the other side of it as well. He was also talking about Neptune to a large degree, because Neptune, of course, made 3 finals, lost 3 finals in a row, including the World Championship Grand Final against OpTic. Of course, that wasn't the case for Pred, so yeah, it's always, you're going to give yourself some ammunition to talk about. I think in Pred's case, right, it doesn't matter what anyone says about, like, his past and whatever's happened over the last few months and getting dropped off OpTic and going to the Falcons. Like, yeah, he's making a bag on the Falcons and he's a world champion. So, unfortunately, even as an opponent to Pred, even if you smoke him or want to get, like, a, you know, clap back at him or say some words or whatever, there's almost nothing you could do because he's got a ring, so he can just talk, especially if you don't have one. So this is what Pred has to say, and then Neptune fires back a bit.
Oh my god! I'm down for a reach out! You fucking butts!
I'm down for a
fucking shitters!
Holy fuck. It's just Drazah and fours.
It's just Drazah and fours! Take your shit. Nep! What are you fucking doing?
Yeah, I'm hosted from Chirac Rip.
Yeah, bro, shut the fuck up. No one cares, bro. You're a bot. Shut up. 0 achievements. 0 achievements. 0 achievements, bro. 0 achievements. 0. 0.
He said Vanguard's over. You won champs last year.
What, 1 champs, last year had a 1.2 of champs. Nice. Yeah, me and him ain't the same, baby. We ain't the same. I don't get to finals and lose 3 finals in a row, that's for sure. I don't get to finals and lose 3 in a row.
Oh shit.
We ain't the same, baby. Oh, NT. We didn't have a trophy.
Are we breaking?
Shotzzy can't get
With
4 for you.
I'm here
trophy.
all night.
Relax, bro. Don't choke this series, boys. Don't choke this series, boys. Don't choke this series. Don't choke this series. Don't choke this series. Hey, don't choke this series, boys. Fuck, bro. We actually threw that. Yeah, we didn't have a trophy though.
So entertaining stuff after winning the second Chal. I'm definitely intrigued to see what happens in this off-season, right? Because all of these players, apart from Pred, I mean, Pred's going to be on Falcons, but the other guys could potentially be not exactly available precisely, but I know there's been some talk about Neptune and Surge. Obviously, Drazah and FaZe is one discussion, and Drazah may well not continue on FaZe going forward, and therefore it raises, okay, where would he go? Could he go to, you know, Toronto was talked about. There was maybe some talk about, you know, a team like Cloud9, maybe. I don't know what they're going to try and build over there. Or even other options up and down the field as well. I mean, Falcons Drazah, I don't know so much about that. The Surge situation is interesting because I don't see them making a change for the sake of making a change, unless the World Cup goes terribly, in which case they may feel they can upgrade. I think for Surge, what's more likely is that somebody gets poached, and, you know, because I don't expect them to voluntarily make a move, Surge. Maybe they still should, but it's like, could they go and get any player, Surge, that's better than their current 4? I think maybe they could, but they would be competing for those players with the other top teams, and I think it would be a real challenge, and it's not like they're based out of Texas, which is an appealing thing for many of the teams, or many of the top players who want to play for teams that can, you know, they can live where they want to live type thing. So I don't really know if I see Surge making an upgrade. I think the risk for Surge is that they are forced to make a downgrade if one of their players gets poached by another top team. So intrigued to your thoughts and all that as always in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.